Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Yang. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. And I can't wait to hear about your stories because I'm a small business person myself. I ran an education company that started out as one person tutoring in a Starbucks, and then it grew and grew to become number one in the country. But the mechanics of that business were still very much person to person. Like you hired a tutor or teacher, you tried to make sure that they were going to represent your company well, treat people well, try and make your students perform better and happy with your company. I did that for 7 years or so, and then when that company was bought, I started a nonprofit to help other entrepreneurs because I thought entrepreneurs are so awesome. And that organization started out very, very small too. I donated some money to kick the organization off, and I had to talk my wife into it a little bit because I was like, hey baby, not only am I not getting paid, but we're paying into it, and I will not be getting paid until the organization grows to a certain point. But then that organization grew and became quite successful and helped create several thousand jobs around the country by supporting entrepreneurs like you. Hundreds of entrepreneurs in 15 cities around the country, in Detroit, Cleveland, St. Louis, Birmingham, New Orleans. And I'm running for president now because I think it's way too hard to start a small business now. Like if you look up, so I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers say very clearly that business start rates are at multi-decade lows in 80% of the country. And one of the things that I think is really a disservice is that people act like the internet is this giant enabler of entrepreneurship, when really it's squeezing out many of the businesses that you might have started a generation or two ago. A generation or two ago, what might you have opened? Hardware store, flower shop, toy store. Now none of those things make any sense because the internet just took them all away. And so they act like anyone can start a business on the internet, but really what the internet enables is subsistence labor. It's like you could cobble together like a little bit of like an Etsy craft store or something like that and make nowhere near enough to support a family and have no benefits. And so to me, the fact that small businesses are getting started less frequently, it's particularly bad for young people for a number of reasons, but young people are starting businesses at multi-generational low rates. And so I spent 7 years helping entrepreneurs around the country, and I thought this is getting much, much worse than I even imagined, where the mega consolidation in certain industries. And when politicians come around, so often they talk about it like every small business is made of money. Right. Like they talk about it's like, you know, you need to treat your workers better, pay your workers more, and you're just like, I'm just barely scraping by, I'm not even paying myself. Right. you know? Like talking about me like I'm freaking Amazon, like I'm not, you know, like. So we need to make it easier for you all to start businesses because entrepreneurship is the backbone of every community. And when you are working on your businesses, I know 100% that you're doing it because you really believe that this thing ought to exist. You're not doing it because this was like the most economically advantageous like way to maximize your bank account. Virtually no one would start a business if they were thinking, I'm gonna like, you know, like economically maximize, because it's so high risk, you're working so hard all the time. I liken it to having a kid. I now have 2 kids at home, and you guys, I brought copies of my book, so I have a very brief passage where I compare starting a business to having children. How many of you all have kids yourselves? So you know, where like the comparisons I make are things like the first 2 years are miserable, everyone lies about it.
It's great, it's great. Not sleeping at all.
So we need more people to take on that challenge, but we're making it harder and harder. The resources are not high enough. Our industries are getting consolidated and gobbled up by a few major actors. You know the irony of it? I talked to this person at Walmart, and the person at Walmart was complaining about competing with Amazon and said, how can we compete with a business that doesn't need to make money? And then I'm looking at you and like, you're Walmart. Like,
Right.
I was like, you put so many businesses out of business. Like that's the reality of the economy that we're in. So I'm thrilled to rewrite the rules of the 21st century to actually work for you all, small business owners. There's no other way to do it. People will come in and talk about like nibbling at the margins. I want you all to imagine what your business would look like if everyone here in Dubuque had another $12,000 a year in income, because that is the vision that I am fighting for. And it seems dramatic, but Martin Luther King championed this in the 60s. Thomas Paine said we should do this at the beginning of the country. 1,000 economists endorsed it in the 60s, and it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice in '71. And one state's had a dividend for almost 40 years, Alaska. They fund it with oil money. And what I'm saying to the American people is technology is the oil of the 21st century. What they're doing with oil money in Alaska, we can do with artificial intelligence and big data and self-driving cars and trucks. Our data is now worth more than oil. How much of that money are we seeing? None. How much did Amazon pay in taxes last year?
No.
Zero. So communities are getting sucked dry. It's getting harder and harder to start and sustain a small business, and that's what we have to change. So I just applaud each and every one of you for taking on the challenge of making your community stronger, better. I know you do it because of passion and belief that what you're doing is important to your community. And I know it's just like having a kid, where you have the kid and you have to fight for it every single day, and no one else is going to fight for your kid. And no one knows what the work looks like except for you. So thank you all for that. I'd love to hear about each of you and the businesses you're working on.
When I came through here 5 years ago, I'll try to be short, it's a long story, but we came through and we really loved Dubuque. We lived in New York our whole lives, pretty much born and raised in Brooklyn, and we came through just on a road trip and happened to stop here accidentally and saw an energy here, saw a vitality, saw a small town that used to be industrial, used to be, one of the largest furniture molding manufacturers in the world, and most of those factories had closed. But rather than being a desolate ghost town, they kind of reimagined themselves and reinvented themselves, and we saw that energy and we wanted to be a part of it. We saw what was happening to the abandoned warehouses in the millwork district up here being bought up and being turned into various different either restaurants or lodging, all kinds of endeavors going on in there. We're very excited about it. We bought this building, which was actually slated for demolition, and moved in here and brought it up to code and opened it up as a gallery, restaurant, bar, venue, art space, performance space. And since then we realized the challenges. It was heady at the time, and we were very optimistic, and we were kind of seeing through rosy glasses for a while, and thought, oh, this is going to be great, people are going to love it, we're going to open this Brooklyn style, arts venue here in Dubuque. It has been incredibly difficult. It has not been supported by the community like we hope, and it has not been supported by the structure of the politics here in the area. It's very difficult, I have to say. We're here, we're doing it, we're surviving it, and we're supported by people that love the place, and every day they come up to us and hug us and say, thank you so much for being here and doing what you're doing. But it is very difficult. I'm working 2 other jobs on the side just to keep the place heated, so everyone enjoy the warmth here. So. But it's an incredible challenge. It's an incredible challenge.
Well, it's an incredible accomplishment. Look at this place. Look at that stage. Does anyone want to hop up there and, I don't know,
Couple more cups
dance or
of coffee.
sing or do something? Yeah, so imagining this place demolished and then looking at it today, it's really incredible what you and Susan have built here. And I appreciate how hard it must be.
Well, thank you.
My name is Leslie Shalaby. My husband and I also took an old space and revitalized it, an old greenhouse actually. And we started kind of a unique model. It's a nonprofit with a for-profit part of it. So it's a restaurant, that's the for-profit part, and an event center. But we're called Convivium Urban Farmstead, and it's an educational space around the idea of creating community around food. So we grow as much of our own food as possible in our neighbors' backyards, so it's in this kind of dense urban area, and we're all connected through growing gardens in people's backyards. That food's used in the restaurant. It's used to help teach classes. We work with a lot of low-income and health at-risk people teaching healthy cooking techniques. We have a training kitchen on site. So that's been our passion. We come from, both my husband and I come from corporate backgrounds. We kind of sold our businesses there and have put our energy into this. We're also working with other small business, very, very micro small business people to help them launch their businesses as well. We're taking the skills and energy that we had and learned in other parts of our lives and applying it here.
Wow.
But
How long have you been building Dubuque?
let's see, we opened to the public in March of 2017, so not that long. So yeah, so it's been, I can relate to what Scott's saying and relate to you saying about how the first 2 years are terrible. I mean, it's hard. You're slogging through the mud every day. It's a 24-hour-a-day job, worry, trying to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah.
Especially with sort of unique concepts in a smaller town. I think that's a little bit of what probably you're feeling.
Absolutely.
And it's a little bit what we're feeling too, so we're really, really on the edge. But, if you can get people there, people connect with what we're doing, so.
It's very
Yeah.
similar. It's very similar, and people like what they're used to. And unfortunately, the structure in the city financially, they support people they know, and they support the larger industry. They support the large businesses. People come in, financial institutions come and buy buildings and want to renovate them. They get 30% of their cost given to them by the city. Places like what Leslie and Mike, her husband, and what we're doing, we got very little. We got very little, if anything at all. It was very difficult. There has to be equity with support of entrepreneurship.
It's hard to even find, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
It's hard to even find the information without knowing somebody. The information is, to get that 30% or whatever is not readily available like you'll think it is to everybody else that's trying to do something different unless you know somebody and they tell you about it. So that's
Even with you're absolutely right, sir, even with the information we were denied. We researched and we said, can we apply to this? And people shook their heads and said, no, I'm sorry, that's not for you.
And then that's not even the truth though.
That's right.
That's not even the truth. I went through a couple of those situations trying to get started where they tell you something and that's not even true, it's false. And you go into the people that's supposed to be the ones to give you the right answers and they lead you down the straight.
Exactly right.
Exactly. There's not the support of small entrepreneurship here, or I imagine it's the same story all over America. It's very difficult.
Yeah, the big guys always have the inside track. Like the banks and politicians will be like, sure, like come right this way.
Right.
If you're an individual bearing more risk, they regard you as risky.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's an even more uneven playing field. It's really wrong. Congratulations, though, on conviction. It seems like two of the people that are working in your space
Working
are
with
here.
us are here, so I'll let you guys talk about.
I'm Corinne and this is my husband Sean. One of our passions was, I'm an educator, so I'm teaching right now at the high school level, have been for about 13 years, and I teach science. So finding application for what you're teaching in the classroom, because that tends to be a disconnect all the time. Like, how does this apply to me? I'm not going to be a doctor.
You're the cool science teacher.
I'm the cool science teacher. And so we were talking about the fact that we wanted to do something together, and something that is educational, something that gives back to the community, and something that helps to increase the community's sustainability. So through my teaching experience, I was looking at using like aquaponics and hydroponics to teach, topics in the classroom. And so we were looking at different companies that were doing this also. It's like, well, why can't we do that? It allows for teaching opportunities. It allows for a more sustainable food economy, and it can bring the community together. And as we were looking at doing that, we were lucky enough to have someone say, you need to talk to Mike and Leslie, because what you want to do and what they're doing are very closely linked. And so we're working to help rehab part of their greenhouse that's going to stay a greenhouse, but then also working on a piece of property nobody else really wanted, in town. It's about 5 acres to try to also start some soil gardening up there, bring the community in, more space, and then also hopefully expand out so we have that future ability to expand out of Convivium.
Wow, so fun. So Sean, what have you been working on?
Well, I have a full-time job. We kind of come at our venture from 2 different perspectives, and that's why I think it's pretty unique. I've got more of a science-based building. I like to build things like the engineer. But I'm looking at it, she's looking at it from an educational standpoint, and Leslie and Mike is outreach, and that's awesome. I do have my own pet outreach that I would like to do. I don't mean to refer to it as pet as derogatory. It's very important to me that people with felony convictions and veterans that are returning from overseas with PTSD issues that prevent them from being gainfully employed are given an opportunity in the right environment to develop the skills to re-enter the workforce. I've worked with the Elm Street facility here in Dubuque, which is kind of a halfway house between jail and then entering society. Trying to give them opportunities to volunteer, develop skills and structure, and then if we were able to expand into a large commercial operation, that would be my primary workforce pool. Give them the opportunity that they're not getting from traditional employment opportunities in a setting that it's solely focused on those on those people, and they can. Farmed Here was another company in Dubuque, or I'm sorry, in Chicago, that was their primary mission. You couldn't work there unless you had a felony conviction or a vet with PTSD issues.
What a phenomenal vision. Do you have a name for this?
Re-Evolution Farms.
So it's the property we bought was an old ball field owned by a church, and we're re-evolving our career paths. We hope to do this full time in the future, and we're re-evolving that property as well, and hopefully re-evolving our food security and sustainability as far as aquatic ecological issues from runoff for fertilizer and pesticides, as far as climate change, and given we had a massive rainy season here this year and droughts in other places, weather predictability for outdoor crops is going to be very sketchy. So we're hoping to apply her science education background and my, just dig in, get your hands dirty type of mentality and build and create a sustainable and secure food source.
Congratulations. So one tiny tip. When you introduce the business to anyone, just use the name because it'll just make it much more real immediately. Like names have magic that way. Like da 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 da.
Right.
And then the card, and then be like, wow, it must be real and serious. And like all you need is like a business card and a half-baked design and the rest of it.
Yeah.
I also want to say there's like a really strong theme here with Scott and Susan and Leslie and Mike and Sean and Corinne. Like you're all married couples, and you all saw an unused space or a piece of land that you wanted to reclaim, and then you wanted to do something purpose-driven with it. And I was joking with them earlier that I admire it in large part because I don't think my wife and I could start a business together. Like we're not the sort that, like, if we were working together 24/7, that we would make a good team. I think we're fantastic partners and parents. But there are some couples that could work with and others that it might not. And there are couples that I've seen have it be successful where it's the greatest thing in the world because their lives are integrated, they see each other. It's not one of these things where one of them comes home exhausted and the other one's like, hey, tell me what's going on. But I just admire it so much that you clearly have really strong values and you're doing things that you think are going to make the world a better place. One other thing I'm sensing from it, and this is something that I'm really of two minds about. So I ran a for-profit business, and then I started a nonprofit, and I feel like the organizations you're starting could qualify for grant funding. Yours does.
Yeah.
And that's very much a distinct path. it has its ups and downs. I guess you could speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really that was just something that I was sensing that you all somehow have in common. It's really beautiful.
My name is Jay Dubuque. I have a very small craft brewery, 2 blocks down the street here. Been operating for about 5.5 years, and we started out, didn't have any money to start a business, my partner and I, so we did a Kickstarter campaign. We borrowed the CSA Community Support
What's the name of the
Agriculture.
brewery?
It's my last name, Dubuque New World Brewing.
Yeah. Wow, guys, you have all these cameras behind you.
There you go.
Let me
good
tell you.
beer.
Wait.
Good beer.
Let me tell you about it. You turn around. New World Brewery, and then you take this bottle out from under your chair. And
Growler. Drink that free coffee right now. Yeah, so we started with a Kickstarter campaign. We borrowed the CSA agriculture model and we called it a community supported brewery. Instead of your box of vegetables every week, you got a growler of beer. And so we used Kickstarter as a way to get people to sign up, basically, for that. And we've kept that model of the community support, and every year we do our membership sign up, and it's stronger than ever as far as the membership goes. So it's gone really well. I guess that's about it.
So you and your partner are both still in the business?
Yeah. I do have a full-time job outside of the business.
Oh, what's that?
Corporate pilot.
Wow, that's cool, man.
Can't get that up.
Come on,
Who's the coolest person you've flown?
well, it's basically I fly for one company, and we fly the higher up guys from the company around, and they're all really
Oh, so you're a corporate pilot, like for an actual
for
company?
just one company. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. So the coolest person you've flown around is really the CEO of that company, I guess.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And so you wouldn't be at liberty to talk about any of like the. Yeah, I got you. And what kind of work does your partner do?
I should say the coolest person I've flown is my wife.
And so if you have a partner, how the heck did you get your last name on the brewery? That's
Well, it was sort of my project to start with, and my partner Dan, who I'd been really good friends with and played in bands and stuff, kind of signed him on partway through the startup
you already
process.
named it. I got you.
Yeah, we kind of already had that.
So have you played this place?
Yeah, we were just
How
talking about
hasn't
your
this
play.
happened?
Well, yeah, when I got the corporate flying job,
The band?
I kind of had to go by the wayside.
He's given us a few kegs of beer though, that always go very well. And people love the beer, and it's great to see something other than Bud Light on the tap, and to have locally sourced and because they're working on such a small scale, they come out every month with a new, correct me if I'm wrong, but every time I'm down there it's completely different. I mean, you have some standbys, but there's always new things coming up, and that's what people want to see, and that's the kind of flexibility you have as a small brewery like that. You can come up with innovative ideas and keep the product fresh and keep it interesting. And
How many people are employed at the microbrewery?
So we don't have anybody full-time other than my business partner, but about 15 total bartenders.
So one full-time and then a bunch of people flexibly?
Yeah.
Sorry?
You also work with local suppliers too, like
As much as
we've-
we can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
we've done
we've
a
supplied
collaboration before.
peaches and
Fruit.
all kinds of
That's
stuff. Yeah,
great.
yeah.
We have peaches from the farm and then
Yeah.
maybe some peach brew.
It was like
For sure.
it was really good.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, that's a great story, Jay.
Yeah, thanks.
So it sounds like you have no intention of like leaving the pilot gig and going to.
Not anytime soon, anyway.
Anytime soon, I understand.
But yeah.
Still, I mean, you created some incredible happy customers and also at least the equivalent of half a dozen jobs because of your partners on it full time and then you have another 14 people.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hey. Okay. So, my name is Wesley Raymond. Proud owner of High Diggity Dogs.
Yep.
Got it on the back. Got it on the hood too. Well, this is my significant other, second. This is my girlfriend. We both in business together pretty much.
Another couple in business.
Yeah. So what we pretty much do is Chicago-style hot dogs, Polishes, and Italian beefs. So the plan behind that was, for one, we wanted, this a mobile push cart, you know, like how you'll see in New York City or Chicago. And our plan behind that was to start something that had low startup costs.
Yeah.
And something that we could just kind of, you know, navigate our way through without a major loss. Because at the time when we first figured this plan out was, I had just lost my job, and I was going to school for welding, and so I'm like, I cashed out my 401k, paid to go to school, paid up my bills for the next 9 months, and then I kept like $12,000 to the side to start our business. And I researched and everything, and like you said, the local government wasn't as supportive as you would think. You know, I went down to a couple people to get business ideas and stuff like that, and then share my idea with them. They like, oh, Dubuque not a big hot dog town. There's negativity everywhere you go. But
What's not a hot dog town?
that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. I said, what's more American than a hot dog? You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, we haven't really came to the local part yet. Mike helped me out a lot because one of the obstacles that we were struggling to get was a commissary kitchen.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, Mike. You don't know how much you helped me out with that because it took me 7 months to find a commissary.
Yes.
And that was one of our greatest obstacles. But our goal behind this is to pretty much bring something that we used to and love from Chicago to Dubuque. Because one of the main things that's lacking in Dubuque is really the food. I feel like it's a lot of commercial restaurants that you get tired of real fast. So, and I know it's certain things that when we go back home to Chicago that we gotta get. And she had to get her Italian beef from Portillo's, and we gotta get pizza from Home Run In, and I gotta go to Tropical Time and get jerk chicken. So it's like just certain food aspects that we don't have here that we have in Chicago. So I figured like, okay, let's bring something that we familiar with and introduce to, you know, Dubuque.
Yeah.
And so, so far it's been going good. It's kind of difficult navigating through the winter time. We only been operating since August. August 14th was when we got certified. And we did a couple local events. We did Blocktoberfest. We did all that jazz. We've been up to a couple schools. We've been to Hempstead twice. We were just at Ottoman 2-3 weeks ago. So we've been getting around, and we've been supporting the Central Express that they got going on right now with the local pop-up shop. So weather permitting, we come out, because it get cold out there. You know, standing outside for 3 hours, you know, your toes getting numb. So we just been trying to navigate through the winter time, and my goal is, ultimately our goal was to, you know, get at all of the major factories with employees, 300 more employees, so we could just set up for their lunchtime and
Sure.
just be out there for an hour or two.
Where do they eat now?
Right, they eating out of vending machines. They go to the vending machine and spend $5, you know,
Yeah.
every day. And we got a nice little $5 special where you get a hot dog.
It'd be
chips,
so much
and
better
pop.
than whatever's coming out of the vending machine.
Right, and then it's good quality all beef products, you know,
Yeah.
all beef hot dogs, Polishes, and Italian beefs, and so the goal behind that is ultimately is just introduce something different to Dubuque. And we've been getting a lot of local support, you know,
Yeah.
everybody up at Key City Creative Center support us. Craig and his wife Christine up at the Upcycle Dubuque, they was real supportive of us. Mike, a great supporter of me as well, of us as well. And we just, our main thing is consistency. We want to get us a semi-permanent structure so that we can work out of during the winter time,
Yeah,
so we can
totally.
be out there more frequent than have we been, you know. So, and then that's another obstacle that we have to go through. So I went down to the city hall just to make sure that everything was in compliance and in ordinance. So the plan was to rent an 8x20, you know, trailer,
Sure.
and then, you know, deck it out and make it look real nice so our customers can come inside and everything like that. But when I went down to the city hall, they're like, well, you must be what is it, ADA accessible, so you gotta have a ramp. Yeah, you gotta have a ramp, and your doorway got to be 42 inches wide, and the ramp, for every inch that is off the ground, the ramp gotta come out a foot. Then you gotta have a 5x5 foot landing. And then I'm using the shared space. Right now we located 1902 Central. They just opened up the Central Mercantile. And so we're sharing that parking lot. with that business. So the obstacle is we can't really take up too much of that parking lot.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's frequent by their patrons as well.
Yeah.
So if I get a 20-foot trailer and then I have to add a 11, 12-foot ramp on top of that with a, you know,
Yeah,
with a
take up
5x5
too
foot
much space,
landing.
yeah.
Exactly.
Space. Yeah.
So we just gonna have to revamp it. So my plan is now we're gonna get a smaller trailer, 8x16, and then we're just gonna get 2 serving windows so the people can come up and order from one window.
Yeah.
And then they can pick up at the other window. And then if they want to, we can just bring their food to their car while they wait.
Yeah.
So we just trying to be as innovative as possible so we can be out there more consistently. But it's just,
Yeah,
you know,
because I'm sure people love your dogs, and then the tough part for them is like whether they get in the habit.
Right.
And then you get in the habit,
Right.
you have to be there where they are looking for it, like on the regular.
and we get phone calls and messages on Facebook every day asking are we gonna be open, and I hate to let them
I
down.
bet.
Yeah.
I hate to let them down, you know, but
Totally.
ultimately they understand.
Of course they do.
But I just hate to let them down because it's like once you get out there and you start interacting with people, you know, you feel kind of obligated.
Yeah.
Exactly. You feel obligated to get out there, and then there's been times where we'll go out there and set up and it'll rain on us.
Sure.
You know, and we'll go out there and set up and the wind will be blowing so profusely. We lost two canopies due to the wind being so
yeah.
tough. You know, that's the Midwest life. You know, you never know really what type of weather you're gonna get, even if you watch the news. So it's just been tough trying to navigate through those little obstacles being so new. But I'm confident about the future. I feel like, you know, it'll get greater. We didn't have a lot of seed money to start off with, and then we haven't really took advantage of any grants or anything like that because I don't really know about how to go about that.
Well, the grants are generally for nonprofits. For you, it would be something like SBA funding, which still may or may not be easy to get because they've got a bunch of hoops to jump through. But to the extent that resources exist, you guys would definitely be like awesome candidates because anyone who looked at it would be like, this is exactly the kind of thing we would need to support in Dubuque. I'd say I ran this nonprofit for years that helped create thousands of jobs. And I'd say for the first 4 years, politicians did nothing but show up and take photos,
Right.
and then leave, and then so, and I get asked questions in year 4 or 5 saying, "Hey, like, how did the government support you?" And you don't want to be a jerk and be like, "They didn't do anything. This freaking showed up and took photos and then like peaced out."
Yeah.
So you'd be like, "Oh yeah, they've been supportive from day one. They really like loved having us here." The rest of it, and then but part of you is like, "I didn't really do anything." It's unfortunate that it's not easier to identify resources for businesses like yours
Right.
because your business has a world of potential and would just make so many people so much happier day to day.
And it do though, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And like everybody at this table, I work a full-time job as well. You know, I luckily I got hired at John Deere as soon as I was still in school actually. You know, and I wasn't planning on doing that. It just so happened to fall in my lap, so I took on the opportunity. You know, so
Sure.
we got that to keep us afloat during the wintertime,
Good
during
for you.
our inconsistent hours. But I know the summertime, once that roll around, we'll definitely be running. We won't be crawling.
Summer's
or
gonna be
walking.
busy for you, man.
It will,
For sure.
and I'm confident
Both
about
of you.
that.
Yeah, hopefully.
You know, that's another theme too you hear, which is some people are looking at balancing whether or not to go into it full time versus not, and it's a tough decision because your business always seems to want more, and you're like, hey, if I was on it full time, then I could give it what it needs. But at the same time, all of a sudden, you're asking this new business to pay your rent and pay your
Right.
grocery bills and do all these things that it probably is not able to do for a particular period of time. So it's a tough period, but to me, the best thing to do is to make sure that you can cover your personal expenses and not step in full time in the business until it feels like it's ready for you to step onto it and it'll actually be stable enough to support you. Because if you can't pay your bills, the business suffers too. You know what I mean? Like it's like, so the fact that I know that Sean and Corinne are looking at it too and saying like, when do you go full time? It's one of the toughest decisions because the business does always seem to want more, and you think you can do much more if you have more bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I done had 22-hour days, go to work, we get off work, we go and set up and be out there way longer than we expect because we plan on shutting down by 7 or 8. But then right at 7 to 8, you got 10 people coming up that stretch you out from 8 to 9. And then once you get done, you still got to go and break everything down, clean everything.
On one level, you're very happy to see those extra people. On the other hand, you're like, why didn't you show up an hour ago?
Exactly. You know,
And you definitely can't be the jerk being like, we're closed.
right, you can't turn them around. You know,
No, that's not happening.
because we get a lot of repeated customers, and that's a good thing. That's a good feeling. We get new customers too, but I like seeing a repeated customer because I know that's what mainly drive a business when you get more repeated customers. So we try to, fulfill them as best way we can.
Yeah, no, you did the right thing, I'm sure. You have,
Well, just to kind of drive off what Wes was saying, it is pretty hard. Like me, I've worked since I was 16 years old. I was working at Nordstrom's for about 5 years of my life. Did I think I retired there? No, but I figured I'd be there a long time. So when Wes came with the idea to start our own business, during that time I was terminated from Nordstrom's. I just had a baby, so I was kind of like stuck in this situation. So when Wes came in with the idea of starting the business, I was with him 100%, but through that journey, I have found that it is kind of difficult, like what you were saying about, okay, so you have the option of spending all your time on the business or going to get a regular job. And that's kind of like what we're facing right now. Like, he work at John Deere, and but I'm not working right now. My job was supposed to be the cart, manage the cart, work the cart. And it's kind of hard to do by yourself because me, I'm doing everything from the cleaning to the prepping to the only thing that I'm really not doing in where I need Wes is to push the cart physically.
Physical part,
Right,
carrying,
and
right into the store.
I feel bad for him because I'm like, he work an 8-hour shift and that job is not easy labor. So, we can't afford to hire anybody because if we hire people, then we're not going to be able to pay, for the inventory and whatnot. So, it's one of those things that I came to respect a little bit more about business owners and small business owners. It's not easy.
it's the hardest thing.
And
And the worst part is they only interview you if the business got to a certain point.
Yeah.
And they make it seem like, look at this success story. Now it's got all these employees. And then they stick a mic in your face and be like, how did you do it? And then and then the story you tell is not let me tell you. It's in those first couple of years we were doing all sorts of stuff we weren't supposed to do. You don't say that.
Yeah, right.
Instead you say it was about culture. Or whatever the heck, it's.
Everybody worked together to help me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is something that I really struggled with at a certain point, is that I love entrepreneurship, it's the greatest thing in the world, but there's so much bullshit around it. Just so much, and you present it as if it's this movie style journey that always has a particular type of process and ending, and it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And at the extreme end, it will destroy families, it will destroy people, it will destroy it does. It's the greatest thing in the world. I love entrepreneurs so much. I think it's one of the most human things you can do, and when it works, it can transform communities. My running for president, I don't know how much you know about my campaign and all this jazz. It was sort of like this process where when I started, no one had ever heard of me.
Right.
No one was banging down the door being like, hey Andrew, you should run for president. That was not a thing. My email list was literally just my Gmail contacts, my email list. When I said I was running for president, people were like, president of what? No, seriously. Certainly, none of these freaking press outlets were here. No one was here to cover the first Iowa trip. I'll tell you that. And, and so you start from humble beginnings and you grind and grind.
Right.
And I was fully prepared for the campaign to end the same way it started. Like in the same way, it's like you embark on it and you know, because I've been through this stuff, like I thought like, hey, I think I can do something really great, but if it does not turn into something great, like I'll be able to live with myself.
Right.
Because like, you know, I've been through this process. And you know, so you should not beat yourself up over the fact that you physically cannot move this cart, is what I'm saying. Because I'm sure most of us couldn't move that cart, like on the regular. And you had a baby how long ago?
I had my baby in 2017. And then Wes came to me or whatnot. I was going to, like, once I left Nordstrom's, I was going to go and just get another job. And he was like, listen, I want to go to school. At the time, we couldn't really afford daycare. So he was like, I think it's better if you just sit at home until I go to school, and then we can do this hot dog cart. So we had a plan, you know, and it's working out for the most part. Like, it haven't, like, I really do appreciate, like, everybody supporting us, because we have been receiving a lot of support from the community, you know, but we are fairly new, and I feel like we haven't hit a wall yet, because I know everybody hit a wall doing business.
Do you have a boy or girl? Or
we have 2 boys. We have a 10-year-old, well, he's actually going to be 11 in February. We have a 10-year-old and we have a 2-year-old.
Wow, I've got 2 boys too.
Like
7
you.
and 4, a little bit between you all. I mean, the kids too are so much
Yeah.
And they've
time,
been
energy,
helping us
work.
out.
Yeah,
Our
my
10-year-old
work
come out in the
for
summer
Your 10-year-old
to
can
help
help
us
you.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we get some free lab out of him. He ain't the best labor, but can't complain for we're free, you know. And then our youngest one, he keep our customers busy.
Oh yeah, very
They love
entertaining.
playing with him, and he a free spirit young man, you know. For a
That's
2-year-old.
beautiful, too.
Yeah, and a lot of people reach out and say, you know, it's a beautiful thing that we come out there as a family unit and stuff. So they people notice it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
you
how
know
could
what
you
I'm saying? People notice it, and I feel like, okay, so my backstory behind it is I want my son to see us doing something positive every day.
Yeah, completely.
You know what I'm saying? Because I want to instill in him to work hard, and you know, because like I told him, I'm like, man, when you get older, there's 2 words that you got to take out of your vocabulary, and that's free and that's easy. Because ain't nothing gonna be free, and ain't nothing gonna be easy the older you get. So I want him to get that in him early and come out there and work. And then I figure like if we start our own business, that'll get him something that he can build off of. Because my parents didn't leave me nothing growing up.
So beautiful, man.
You know what I'm saying?
So
I
thinking of
figure-
this intergenerationally.
Right.
Plus, I want to commend you. It's a good-looking logo. It's a good name.
Yeah,
It's a good-looking
Ford Social created this logo for me. We sat down and we came up with this, and they created it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling your boys get some good hot dogs on the regular too.
They don't eat hot
They don't even
dogs.
eat it. We better
That's
Yeah, we should definitely keep that to ourselves. We should definitely omit that part. Just say that their boys love the hot dogs.
Yes, they're the best. You can't
'Cause my
Can't
boys
keep
love
stock.
hot dogs. Oh, I'm so sorry. Susan?
Susan, well, I'm Susan, right, with my husband, Scott, who spoke earlier.
Yeah.
We own this venue, Smokestack, that we created on our own, a little over 4 years ago. But I do want to touch on a few things that were said before. Wesley, what you said was really interesting, that, you know, you try to get information and it's not there for you. And then you find out that after the fact that, yeah, actually that was there for you. And what you thought was there was there. This was a steady theme throughout our experience in Dubuque, moving from New York City here. You know, we did this project ourselves. I mean, if my husband, Scott, could not do construction, we would be dead. I mean, like this, if he could build it, he built it. If it was legal for us to do it, we did it. And Seklas, what you said, you can't push that cart. I get it, because there came a point I could no longer hold a screw gun.
Right.
And my hands wouldn't do it anymore. So I wound up having to transition fully from the construction phase almost immediately into, like really quick, into anything that I could do, like computer, this, that, whatever it was, that was what I was going to be able to do physically. You know, it's very difficult when it's what you're doing. And one of the things that I've also noticed, and I'm sure it's not just here in Dubuque, but you know, when big business gets assistance, when there's corporate welfare, and it's almost as if they've forgotten that little things connect big things. All of these big projects, all of these big businesses actually need small businesses to help create a viable community.
Right.
I really feel like that's forgotten a lot of the time, and that there's no equity for, well, equitable treatment of small business. I would never be asking for 30% of my construction costs on this project to be covered. No, but when, like I said, when less than 2%, and that includes us going out and getting a competitive grant from the state, not something that was, you know, guaranteed or no, a competitive grant, and it's still less than 2% from the state and the city. Yet, like I say, a financial institution, more than one, gets 30% of its construction costs covered. Where is the equitable treatment for small business? And that's really one of my kind of passions, trying to get small business treated more equitably.
Yeah.
Period.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I call it the trickle-up economy.
Absolutely.
You know, put
Absolutely.
resource in people's hands, and then try and even the playing field so it's not just the big guys that
Yeah.
get every advantage and break. I want to make it illegal not illegal. I want to 100% tax any corporate relocation incentive, because from a national perspective, it doesn't matter whether you're in one city or another city. And the only people that win are the big companies, because they just pit communities against each other and be like, hey, if you give me enough tax breaks, I'll come to your town and create X jobs. And so who wins? Like, just the company. Because from the country's perspective, it doesn't matter which city they're based in. And those benefits they promise, most of the time, don't actually materialize.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's one way we can even the playing field. The main way we can even the playing field is putting more resources into everyone's hands, so that your customers have more money, you have more money, that if your business doesn't work out, it's not like a make or break, I'm gonna starve to death, like, don't know what my future looks like. And this is going to have to be a collective government-driven decision, which is not my favorite, because as you can all tell, I think like I have something of a skepticism towards some of the things that government can and can't do. But I'm a numbers guy, and I've looked at the numbers. There's no way to do it without reformatting the economy from the federal level. The scale of the changes is just too great. We got rid of 4 million manufacturing jobs, including 40,000 here in Iowa, and a lot of these communities haven't recovered. And things are going to get so much more extreme when artificial intelligence leaves the lab and starts reforming the economy in various ways. And our federal government is 25 years behind the curve, which at some point you might have been able to live with, but not these 25 years. Like these 25 years, so much stuff is happening. So we need to humanize the economy as quickly as possible, and that includes leveling the playing field. Susan.
I guess I share a lot with everybody here at the table, you know. Started the business 40 years ago. I had some revelations early in my life, you know. I met some of the right people and just changed up my goals and got really serious about making a difference in the world. To go back to the hot diggity guy. I'm your commissar because why? What was the promise?
You say what?
What was the promise we made together about the business?
We're gonna get us an organic dog on the menu.
We're gonna make some organic meat. And I have to say that the government has gotten away in that area of my business many times over, where I would get local locker plants producing sausages and different things out of local meat, and then bang, they're out of business because they set the bar way too high. All the problems were coming from the large plants that were recalling 1 million pounds of beef, and then the effect would trickle down to these small locker plants out of business. And furthermore, you know, the advertising power is just tremendous. You know, I already mentioned to you, I'm running for president too. I have been for 2 years, because I need to get out in front of people and say the things that aren't being said. On that debate stage, y'all are talking about who's going to pay for pharmaceuticals, and nobody's talking about why people are sick. And they're simply sick because they're eating shit. All the stores are crammed with shit. You know, even Hy-Vee has an organic section, just treating it that way. Like, oh, here's another little variety of something you could have. But when I was a kid growing up, everything was organic. I asked my dad, what's that white tank? When that first tank went out into that cornfield, why is there a white tank out in the cornfield, Dad? This has all happened in a short period of time in terms of the history of man. And because of media, and I have a degree in anthropology with a specialty in media, and I completely understand that. I read everything Marshall McLuhan's ever written. We have just been inundated in the last 40 years. Screwed. And we got 400-pound people walking through the checkouts, and nobody can shame them. Nobody can shame them. I mean, we don't know how to approach this. We got a huge thing with diabetes. I ran a small business for a long time, and I was the only alternative anything in this town. I had so many people with their cancers and all their problems come to me over the years. My partner and I were doing this together, and it was a lot of stress because I did spend way too much time in my business. And I finally got to her and she left. And the city never really helped me too much. And along the line, I decided to start my own 501c3 so I could swing a bigger axe. So we sued the state of Iowa and the EPA over the Clean Water Act and forced them to collect data for the first time. Otherwise, none of that data that's on Sustainable Dubuque's website would be there because it wouldn't have been collected yet. We forced the city of Dubuque to change its wastewater treatment plant. They were incinerating. We have done all kinds of great things for this town, but my business has been swallowed up by Hy-Vee and other conglomerates. I'm using my musical performance to subsidize my food business. And at this point in time, it's hardly enough. It's not an easy climb.
You do have a really important message, and you've done a lot for this community, I can tell.
$2. I've sold $450 worth of.
Nice work.
That's what you do.
For what it's worth, that's about what I sold in the first month. So,
I mean, I could go on about everything that people have said here. I know time is short, and I'm always laying my thing on the line with people trying to sell $2 button. But any questions for me you'd like to ask?
I have a feeling you and I could have a long conversation, but my team
I'd like
is
to help
telling
you
me
out
that
with your campaign. I mean, what's going on? I'm just seriously upset about the Democratic Party. You know, they're not that much different than the Republicans. They're in bed with the pharmaceutical industry. They're in bed with the food processing industry. You know, I am absolutely not a Republican, but I'm not sure I'm a Democrat. You know what I'm saying?
You're not the
I
only
get it.
person to say exactly
I started my
that.
own party. I have the Halloween party.
Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Brett Buck. I mean, I'm so thankful for everybody here who's I used to work at CARP, by the way, in Chicago. I'm from Oak Park.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I worked
stayed
at
in Oak Park too
yeah,
for
yeah.
a little while.
So I worked at CARP once when I was a teenager.
Selling dogs?
Hard work, man.
Hard work.
I think the hardest work is obviously the groundwork, and you're right. As we're talking, I had no intention. Bullshit aside, my husband's a 2-time national champ in wrestling. I'm a 3-time high school dropout, and I eventually went to college. I got my master's degree, and started. I was a chaplain in the hospital, and my mission is obviously helping people to get out of the mess that I was in as a teenager. Kind of a fun story. 2 weeks, a couple months ago, my father rolled into town, who I didn't even know was my father until Ancestry DNA. We come from musicians' backgrounds, right? So my father rolled into town in a '85 Chevy thing and just decided to be homeless here. I didn't even know he was my father, and it kind of opened my eyes to some of the things that aren't afforded to people who come into town, but when it's afforded to people who already are from here. So he couldn't even find the homeless. The getting housing list was closed, and anyway, all that aside, I run a nonprofit, but I also run a for-profit. So I'm an Aspire home daycare provider.
Ooh, how many kids do you have in there?
5 right now.
That's still a handful.
It's a small provider. But it did open my eyes when parents would come and single moms especially, who struggled so hard. You know, you get this vision I got a vision to have a place where you can have a building where you can have drop-off daycare.
Yeah.
Because we have only 60 daycares, registered daycares in all of Dubuque County. And it's a very big, we have a lot of schools and a lot of children that need daycare and a lot of families that are here. And, but to have a big facility where you have desks where parents can be in one area and do entrepreneurial, independent, you know, work and they can just come in and they can have their desk, but their kids are downstairs, and if they need them, they can reach them, but mothers can get their paperwork done. I mean, just getting your paperwork done is like an obstacle.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm there, you know, with trying to navigate all of this. I owe more than $300,000 in student loans.
No.
Because I borrowed at an
How much?
point over $300,000. Because when I borrowed $40,000 for my undergrad, it was at an 8.5% interest rate.
They compound over time.
And then I went overseas, and I was all altruistic. I was, became a missionary.
What's your monthly payment?
My whole life changed because I became a Christian. And I found myself in the Republican Party by de facto of pro-life issues. Until Obama came on the scene, and I became an Obama Fellow because I realized that pro-life meant more than babies. And yes, it's hard, but there's other issues involved in pro-life issues.
Yeah.
And so anyway, nonetheless, so I work for a nonprofit on the side for the Veterans National Recovery Center. And then we have an open forum here on January 11th here at the 5 Theater, where we have presidential open forum to have you invited to come to speak on veterans issues. And I'm working this nonprofit 30 hours a week in addition to my daycare so that I can pay off my student loans. Because for the College Cost Access and Reduction Act, 2017. So that's what I do. I wanted to ask you, well, we all do.
We all do a lot.
And we're all driven by some sense of purpose to do something beyond ourselves.
Right.
Yes, we want to do something that, is going to do our legacy, I suppose, on some level, or, maximize our creativity and get ourselves a sense of usefulness. But how many people are doing it for altruistic reasons? There's beyond themselves, something that we can contribute to our community and really make something purposeful and change lives and make it so much better. So I'm right there with you, but I have a question for you about net neutrality.
Yes.
Because that has bitten us being able to find resources anymore. So you go on the internet and you Google just, general resources, and you're going to get all these ads because net neutrality has been taken away. We have no idea, now even using the internet, how to access the information we need.
That's true.
I'm very pro net neutrality. I think that was very much the wrong move, and it again advantages the biggest guys because who can buy privileged access on the internet? It's the biggest companies. So I'm 100% with you. I just want you all to imagine, like, if the other people at this table were able to have like a clearer path to be able to accomplish your goals. Like, wouldn't this city be a stronger, more vibrant community?
Yes.
I mean, I can see that very easily. I'm sure you all can see that too. Things don't need to be easy, to your point, Wes. But things should not be this excruciating. Like that's where I am. Like, I've seen it.
I got an application for food stamps yesterday.
And they were not this excruciating a generation ago. Small businesses actually got started and flourished. If you were born in the 1940s in this country, there's a 93% chance you're going to do better than your parents. There was like this American dream growth. If you were born in the 1990s, you're down to a 50-50 shot, and it's trending down.
Yeah.
So the people who think that the American dream is struggling and even dying are right by the numbers. And I'm running for president to try and change that. If we can put more, and I always come, but I am a numbers guy. Like, if we just put more economic resources into the hands of your customers and communities and people, yeah, the money will help, but even more so will be this mindset of possibility and optimism and abundance, as opposed to the scarcity mindset. The scarcity mindset is the people in Dubuque don't like hot dogs. You know what I mean? Like you suggest something and then people are like, oh, like they'll find some ill-founded negative reason why it's not going to work.
Right.
And so even more than the money, it's reversing that mindset of scarcity and negativity that unfortunately is getting stronger and stronger in this country. But I'm just so excited for each of you, and I love to take pictures with you if you'd like. It looks like my team's ushering me out. But
we have to end it. We can do photos, yeah.
But we do have some books for you all. I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I'm going to try and come back and try and clear the path for you all. Thank you all so much.